I would like to start by actually you doing something. I want you all to imagine how it felt to you when you were young and when you were in this kind of job orientation phase. You know, I'm speaking about the times you were maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of your graduation at lower school and were thinking about your future. And what I exactly want to know is, how did this feel to you? So what did this make to you? What was this kind of situation? Which kind of thought came or bumped up to you? Who were in this discussion involved? Your parents, your teachers, what did they say? How did it feel? Just think about it. And to make it maybe a little more easy to go back in time, I just thought this picture might inspire you to go back in time and jump on the time machine of Mr. Cooper and his gang and go back and think about this moment and this feeling or those feelings who come in mind. I can tell you how I felt, and I felt a little bit pressured actually, because my teachers were telling me a lot, my parents were telling me a lot what to do, and everyone knew it in a way better than me. The other thing is that there was a really huge complexity in this discussion, you know, because there were a lot of opportunities. I can go studying, I can do apprenticeship as a company, I can do a kind of mixed thing, go abroad for a year, work and travel, and so on. There were a lot of opportunities. And this made me feel really stressed, and actually that's what I kind of felt, and I think it maybe cover also the feelings that you may had by your job future orientation thing, and I didn't really know where to start. So actually future and job orientation, which should be something great. I mean, it's all about your life and what you're going to experience in your life, was a kind of crap. And and then it got even worse. So I tell you how I started my job orientation process. And basically this started with a bus trip with my whole class, or entire class, to the Bundesagentur für Arbeit. It's something very special in Germany, and to be more accurate in this thing, it was the Berufsinformationszentrum. It's a very traditional and very old institution in Germany, which tries to help people to get or find their way into a job. And what I did there was this kind of test thing. And some people say laughing already. It was those Windows 95 computers where you had this very interactive testing thing, and afterwards it even got worse. You got this kind of talk to one of the people working there, who of course know the newest trends at the market and the newest jobs and study programs and so on. And in the end, what was there? The forester. I should become a forester. That was my job. And when I see you laughing, I think, of course, there are some people who may also got this experience the same way, maybe with a kind of different job in all of this. But I think what comes pretty clear in this is that that's not the way future and job orientation should work today. This was 2009, and I think it's not that long ago. And in case this process didn't work, and they gave me this kind of book, Studien- und Berufswahl, where you can find on 1,000 pages, all those 11,000 study programs we got in Germany. In I think a font size of maybe 9, and so this is our job orientation process, and I think it's pretty obvious that actually this job orientation experience does not fit into the daily life of a teenager, because if you just maybe go deeper inside this generation, this teenager generation today, they are the Generation Z, following, I think, the most of us, the Generation Y, and are those who are born in the 1995 years. And so I think they are completely different in some points and habits. And I was just bringing up the major drivers or major trends about this generation, so that we are just at the same level in this. And the first big trend, I think, is demography. So actually, this generation is getting smaller, smaller than generations before, because the birth rates are declining in Europe, especially in Germany. So this is, for example, a graph which shows the labor market in Germany in the year of 2030. We will lose more than 6 million workforces in Germany, which has a huge impact and on industry, of course. But also on the situation of this generation, because they are needed. They are more needed than all the generations before, and that's also what they kind of bring to life when they talk to companies or universities, because they know they are needed, and so they're kind of feeling about their futures are very positive, and that's what they're going to show to others. The second big trend is the trend of digitization. So that those little black glass things got into life more or less every day, every night, wherever you are, you got your smartphone with you. And I think that's also something very special when it comes to this generation, because they kind of grew up with those techniques. They kind of grow up with all the platforms and things running on those smartphones. And just also to give you a kind of feeling how kind of difficult or different those worlds are, I just kind of bring up a comparison between maybe a parent and his kid, or maybe also on a teacher and a pupil. And if you just think about in which kind of life situations they grew up, or technical standards, it's something completely different. It starts, for example, with the disc telephone you got on the right side. By a parent, he grew up with a phone which was fixed. I mean, I don't know, maybe in the living room, everyone could listen to him when he was phoning. Every second maybe cost a Deutsche D-Mark or something like this. And his daughter grew up with a smartphone where she could phone as much as she wants, where she wants, and has a flat rate, so don't need to pay as much. So the communication habits changed totally in that way, because also, even though she can phone whole day, she's more or less typing in WhatsApp, Snapchat, and Facebook Messenger and so on. And this continues. So the father grew up with a television, good old television, maybe with a very limited program and all in black and white. Her daughter, she grows up in a world with YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, where she got limitless content in different languages, and she could just kind of use it whenever she wants, or consume it whenever she wants it. And this continues. Like, for example, when she comes to music, there was also this kind of old disc where you got this one hit on it, and on the other side, you got Spotify, where you can consume as much content as you wish, playlists, songs, and so on. And also when it comes to maybe a big question, you've in the ancient times used this kinds of lexicon, and nowadays you Google it. So the digital world kind of was more or less going straight forward with this generation. And the left side, that's very important. They don't know a world without all this digital platforms. They don't know a world without their smartphone. And this kind of makes them also kind of depending on this left side. And when you just think about all those left platforms, you can say, well, great, you got every song, every I don't know, every TV spot, or every film at a glance, but the problem which this digital world also brought to this young generation was a kind of complexity they couldn't handle anymore. And so just to give a little example, it's for example, if you want to listen to a song at Spotify and you don't know where to start, because you can listen to more or less every song, it's getting complex. Or there are also people who are sitting all the night in front of, I don't know, Netflix or Amazon Prime, looking trailers of films because they don't know where to start, which film to watch, because the complexity is so huge. And that is where the third trend and last trend, I think, comes into the game, and that's the trend of individualization, which means that you as a user or the consumer don't need to decide on what film to watch, or don't need to decide on which song to hear or to listen to. This is kind of taken by those platforms like Spotify, who suggest you some songs, or by I don't know, Netflix, who suggests you to watch this film because it matches to your user habits from the past, to your consumer profiles, and so on. So there are platforms and products which reduce this huge complexity, but in context of job orientation and future orientation, no one is doing that right now. So that's this kind of conflict which is coming up at that point, that there is a young generation which is used that people just take the complexity out of their lives. Like, for example, we have this with Spotify and Netflix and Google and so on, but not when it comes to job and future orientation. So if you dig deeper and look what is going on those smartphones, you got some kind of repeating habits. And the first thing that you got, for example, Amazon. And Amazon is used because it's a kind of aggregator. There you can find from A to Z more or less every product, and don't need to register at a lot of online shops, which makes it so easy to buy your online stuff, because it is all in this one app and one platform. The next thing is that when it comes to, for example, those individual offers, that they gonna push you and say, hey, that's the best match for you, and that's where you need to listen to that song because it matches all the other songs you heard in the past, which just makes it more easy and reduces the efforts you need to take to find the best matching song for you. And that's just the beginning of all this individualization thing, because the smartphone and also the apps on it just are getting more and more this kind of virtual assistant you trust day in and day out. And that's, for example, a sport app which tells you when you got to do which tasks to stay fit or to reach what training targets you set in the past. And yeah, I think that's a really good example where it just shows that the smartphone is this kind of personal assistant to you, and you trust it a lot too. And yeah, the last point is that also the communication runs about just those smartphones. And yeah, the email, for example, only 7% of the nowadays teenagers or pupils say that they communicate by email, or that the email is relevant for them, which brings also huge communication problems with it when it comes to for example, application processes in this whole job orientation thing. So to draw a conclusion, this generation, also called Generation Smartphone or Generation Z, is permanently mobile, online. They get or receive individual offers of products, and they are always in a personal communication mode, because only that's what really relevant to them. And yeah, so the big question for us also was, okay, how's the economy dealing with that? How are the big companies and universities dealing who need to attract those young talents for their workforces? And they performed even worse. So big companies are still sticking to those classical job postings, and they don't find a way to really get into online and mobile. And even further, they are still not really authentic in their communications. And I think that's a huge problem when it comes to social media, where we really got a very transparent labor market, and yeah, where all those kind of sticky photos or stock photos, they don't work anymore. And yeah, also the overaged career websites, or yeah, the overaged application processes, they don't fit to this generation anymore. And yeah, that's exactly where we kind of come into the game and try to help and bring those both sides together. And that's what we're doing with our platforms. Like, for example, Blixtra, in the context of young people at school, so pupils. And there we're going to help them to find their work and study orientation. And on the other side, we're building a platform, or still build a platform for students, which will help them to just find their way after the university. And those platforms are kind of two-sided marketplaces, you can imagine, because on the one side we got our users, pupils or students, and we're going to help them to orientate. We're going to help them to find their way after school more easy than before. And on the other side of this market, we help big companies and universities to get in touch with those people and engage them, attract them for their company. And that's basically how those platforms work. And just to give you a little deep dive in, for example, this platform we built for pupils, Blixtra, it's actually a platform which is very individualized, and that's the kind of Spotify effect. So if you, for example, got the pupil Moritz, and he's interested in economics, that's what he just kind of found at our pre-testings, and yeah, he is just about to make his Abitur certificate in Berlin, and when he opens, for example, Blixtra, this job orientation platform, he finds a completely individualized news board. So, for example, he got an offer of the Deutsche Telekom for studying IT, or he also finds, for example, an experience report of an economics student. And for example, the university in Berlin offers a kind of open day to him. And that's very relevant to Moritz, but is totally irrelevant, for example, to Tina. She's interested in technology, and she's doing a Realschul certificate in Germany, in München, and so she receives a completely different news board at Blixtra. She receives, for example, a fair exhibition event for persons in her age for orientation. She develops, for example, an apprenticeship, a more practical one or technical one at a company in the room of or area in Munich. And so in the end, Blixtra, our orientation platform, looks completely different to every pupil in Germany, depending on individual preferences, interests, but also, for example, the region the person comes from. And that's I think what's really unique about our platform, that we try to reduce complexity and bring up relevance by just playing the right offers and the right events and contents to the right people to make this job orientation thing not that complex anymore and more easy to use. And the other thing is, what's really, I think, unique about those platforms is that we enable direct interactions between companies and, on the other side, those students or pupils. And that's by just bringing all those platforms on smartphones and giving a direct contact. And that's, I think, the vision behind Blixtra. When we thought about, okay, how should job orientation maybe work in the future, that we thought, okay, it's maybe this kind of scene where you got a pupil sitting on, I don't know, the school's break, and there he receives on his smartphone a push notification from Blixtra, which says, hey, Coca-Cola sent you a message. And when he opens this kind of message, Coca-Cola tells him, hey, dear Moritz, we've seen your profile on Blixtra, your interest test results, and also your grades, and also on. They really fit to the profile we are looking for, and we'd like to get in contact to you. And that's where we think, okay, job orientation gets more direct. That's where we think the future of job orientation lies in. And I'd like to conclude my presentation by just telling you guys why we're going to do this, what we do. And I think that's really important, because nowadays I think most people or everyone can tell you what he or she is doing. Some few can tell you how they do what they do, especially companies are talking then about their USP. But I think the most really relevant thing, and that's personally my opinion, is why we're going to do what we do. And that's where it comes to belief. And the organization I work for and I also founded with, we believe that everyone deserves the best fitting job and labor and employer in the end. And that's what really drives us by creating really relationships, inspiring relationships between talents and employers. That's what we're going to do, especially when it comes to Blixtra and Careerloft via digital platforms. And and I think the vision behind all this is to build a kind of digital ecosystem where we're going to have, on the one side, always our target groups like students or also pupils and professionals. And on the other side, we got big companies. And we are trying to get them on one island and bring them together. And that's what we do. Thank you for your attention and your time. And I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you.